Good morning everybody. I am Dr. Nitin Doshi, Professor in Urology with teaching experience of 25 years, working as consultant neurosurgeon in Panvel for more than 30 years. Today we will discuss the topic cystoscopy. Cystoscopy is actually cystourethropy. It is also called as pan-endoscopy. Cystourethropy, that is inspection and examination of bladder as well as urethra. In olden days, older instruments were true cystoscope, that is, they were able to evaluate only bladder, no evaluation of urethra, where they use either 70-degree or 90-degree telescopes, and with these telescopes only bladder could be visualized. The modern telescopes which are most commonly used are with 0-degree lens which has forward view and with 30-degree lens which has forward and oblique view, that is 4 oblique. 0-degree telescope is ideal for visualization of urethra, while 30-degree scope is ideal for visualization of base of bladder and anterolateral aspect of bladder. If 70-degree and 90-degree scopes are available, then they can be used to visualize the dome of bladder. Retrograde lenses with angle of view more than 90-degree, that is 120-degree, is useful for evaluation of anterior wall of bladder, particularly to diagnose bladder tumors. Ohowever, 30-degree telescope is most commonly used telescope, which is 4 oblique telescope, that is having 4 oblique view. Since it is commonly used, it is called as an universal telescope. Telescopes consist of illuminating and imaging system. Modern telescopes use fiber optic illumination and a rod lens imaging system. The objective lens at tip of instrument collects the light of image and transmits image to eyepiece through rod lens system. As we have seen, telescopes are available with different angles of view, which are 0-degree, 30-degree, 70-degree, 90-degree and 120-degree. The size of cystourethoscope is given in French scale and it refers to outer circumference of instrument in millimeters. 3 French is equal to 1 millimeter. There are sheets of varying sizes for pediatric and adult patients. Most modern cystourethoscope consist of a metal sheet that accepts other parts of endoscope. To the metal sheet, breech is attached. Through viewing channel of breech, telescope is passed, while through its working channel, ureteric catheter or accessories like digestion removal forceps can be passed. The irrigation fluid is connected to inlet channel of the sheath, while fiber optic cord light is connected directly to telescope. Obturator can be passed through the sheath so as to provide a smooth, blunt tip for easy passage of metal sheath and to prevent trauma to external urinary meatus by sharp inner vesical end of the sheath, as external urinary meatus is one of the natural physiological narrowings of the urethra. The most common irrigation used is normal saline. However, if pan-endoscopy is the first step of monopolar TURP, then 1.5% glycine can be used as an irrigation fluid. Anesthesia. Cystoscopy can be performed under local anesthesia or sedation or spinal anesthesia or general anesthesia. But if TURP is to be performed, then it should be under spinal anesthesia. General anesthesia has to be avoided, even sedation should be avoided, because the signs of TUR syndrome are missed in when the patient is sedated or under general anesthesia. Indications of cystoscopy: diagnostic. First, to evaluate cause of microscopic or gross hematuria. Second, to evaluate cause of LUTs. LUTs can be due to neurological conditions, inflammatory conditions, neoplastic conditions, or certain congenital abnormalities. Third, diagnostic indication to evaluate presence or absence of any recurrence in case of diagnosed case of DCC of bladder by check cystoscopies at regular intervals and to collect urine for cytology by bladder barbotage. Second indication group is therapeutic. Cystoscopy is the first step of various endourological procedures like bladder biopsy, bladder neck incision, RGP, DJ stenting, optical urethrotomy, cystolithotrity, TURP, rigid as well as flexible ureteroscopy, insertion of open-ended ureteric catheter while performing PCNL. Contraindications to cystoscopy: uncorrected bleeding disorder, untreated active urinary tract infection. Procedure: a simple principle to follow is always enter urethra under vision. Pan endoscope is assembled with appropriate size breech and telescope. The most commonly used telescope is 30 degree. When one is entering urethra for the first time, it is better to use the smallest possible sheath which will serve the purpose. In order to avoid friction injuries, instill water-soluble sterile anesthetic jelly, lignocaine jelly, with 10 cc syringe with Foley's adapter. In case of male patient, while inserting the sheath, thumb and index finger of the surgeon should be at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position of external urinary meatus present on glans penis. In order to avoid friction injury and hence Pohn's instrumentation stricture urethra, rule is passing smallest possible well lubricated sheath under vision with good irrigation, with good illumination, without any force, that is, allowing instrument to fall on its own weight. Also, in male urethra, appreciating natural narrowings in the urethra and natural curvatures in urethra is important to prevent friction injury. The natural narrowings in male urethra are external urinary meatus, transition from fossa navicularis to distal penile urethra, and transition from proximal bulbar to membranous urethra. The shape of male urethra is A-shaped due to presence of two natural curvatures. The distal curvature is at penoscrotal junction, which while passing cystoscope can be overcome by stretching the penis, while proximal curvature is at transition from proximal bulbar to membranous urethra. This proximal curvature is overcome by depressing the outer end of sheath so that inner vesical end of the sheath gets elevated. In addition to these two natural curvatures, there can be presence of additional third curvature in presence of protuberant median lobe or bladder neck elevation. In presence of third curvature, one has to further depress the outer end of sheath and one may have to give head-low position to negotiate the third curvature. Failure to do this may result into subtrigonal perforation by passing straight and sharp proximal end of sheath. When one passes cystoscope through penile and bulbar urethra, it is like passing through a tunnel lined by pink healthy mucosa. Along the entire length of penile and bulbar urethra, there are multiple tiny openings or pits present on the roof. These pits are openings of periurethral glands of Leiter. Leiter's gland are present only in penile and bulbar urethra and absent in membranous and prostatic urethra. Since maximum concentration of this Leiter's gland is in bulbar urethra, The most common site of inflammatory stricture is in bulbar urethra. Since sheath is passed gently without any force and with adequate lubrication, if one finds any tightness while passing the scope, it indicates either rigidity or narrowing or stricture in urethra. When one is passing cystoscope from bulbar to membranous urethra, there is sudden change in direction of urethra from horizontal to steep vertical towards bladder neck behind symphysis pubis. This curvature has to be taken care of by depressing outer end of sheath. The membranous urethra is narrowest and fixed part of urethra since surrounded by external urinary sphincter. The appearance of normal external urinary sphincter is like a central pit with mucosal folds radiating outwards in all directions. So looks like a pink anus. As one progresses from membranous urethra to bladder neck, one notices one important anatomical landmark, and that is veru montano. Veru is a widening and protrusion of urethral crest. It marks the midpoint of prostatic urethra, which extends from bladder neck to prostatic apex. Veru forms distal limit of resection during TURP. Veru is the site of opening of prostatic utricle in center and ejaculatory ducts on either side. So, any injury to veru during TURP will result into fibrosis of openings of ejaculatory ducts and hence painful ejaculation. Hence, try to avoid injury to veru during TURP. Just distal to veru is external urinary sphincter, which is voluntary in nature and plays important role in urinary continence. So, if veru is protected, even external urinary sphincter gets protected automatically. Thus, helps to preserve continence. Also, apical lobe, which is the distalmost limit of lateral lobe, is in vicinity of veru. On clock dial, veru is at 6 o'clock position. Normally, veru is clearly seen and is called freestanding veru. Sometimes it is covered or difficult to identify. The cause of covered veru is due to moderately to grossly enlarged lateral lobes of prostate. The causes of difficult to identify veru is too grossly enlarged prostate called kissing prostate, gross edema of prostate secondary to acute bacterial prostatitis, so much that it is progressing to prostatic abscess. Other cause, pseudopapillary changes due to prolonged catheterization. Other cause of difficult to identify due to veru involved in carcinoma prostate or carcinoma bladder. And the other cause of difficult to identify if there is ablation of veru during prior surgery. Normally, lateral lobes are concave and so veru is clearly seen, that is freestanding veru. However, while performing TURP, one has to appreciate how much is the bulge or enlargement of lateral lobes. When the sheath is present in the prostatic urethra, lateral lobes get depressed laterally and dorsally. When the sheath is withdrawn from bladder neck to veru, laterally and dorsally depressed lateral lobes bulge back more in the prostatic urethra, and when one withdraws this sheath further in membranous urethra, one gets still more proper idea about bulging of lateral lobes. Though bulging of lateral lobes gives some information about lateral lobe enlargement, exact volume of enlarged prostate one gets on truss. When one progresses from veru to bladder neck, one notices median lobe, which embryologically originates from periurethral zone of McNeil zonal concept. So median lobe arising from the periurethral zone. Typically, median lobe is pedunculated, present between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Normally, there are grooves at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock which act as demarcating lines between lateral lobes and median lobe. In presence of prominent median lobe, one has to pass the sheath along these grooves present at 5 and 7 o'clock. When the median lobe is stretched down, one can see its stalk extending down to Veru between two lateral lobes. Irrespective of presence or absence of median lobe, one has to appreciate bladder neck. Bladder neck is ring of smooth muscle fibers placed parallel to each other and encircles bladder neck. Smooth muscle fibers of bladder neck and the smooth muscles of proximal part of prostatic urethra together forms internal urinary sphincter, which is involuntary in nature. Bladder neck forms the proximal boundary of resection during TURP. Normally, posterior margin of bladder neck is a concave ridge. Due to enlargement of median lobe, bladder neck appears as if it has got converted into convex globular swelling. Normally, bladder neck is mobile and pliant, and bladder neck is closed normally by circular smooth muscle fibers. Normally, cystoscope slides smoothly through bladder neck into bladder. Bladder neck obstruction is suspected when bladder neck appears narrow and when cystoscope is kept at Veru. Due to bladder neck obstruction, it is difficult to see in the bladder with 30-degree scope when the scope is at Veru, that is observation point. Due to posterior commissural hyperplasia, there can be significant bladder neck elevation where it forms transverse bar or annular aperture. One can appreciate degree of elevation and tightness of bladder neck by repeatedly moving the endoscope sheath in and out. When there is significant bladder neck elevation, one has to take deep bladder neck incisions to relieve bladder outlet obstruction and hence loops. One has to measure the length of prostatic urethra from bladder neck to Veru, which is the midpoint of prostatic urethra, and this part of prostatic urethra arises from the proximal part of embryonic prostatic urethra. This proximal part of embryonic prostatic urethra gives rise to periurethral zone and transition zone, which are the exclusive site of development of BPH. Hence, measurement of length of prostatic urethra from bladder neck to Veru gives operating surgeon some information about how much tissue is to be resected at time of TUR. Normal length of prostatic urethra from bladder neck to Veru is 1 to 2 cm. Normal bladder is a balloon having great elasticity and distensibility. When bladder is empty, its walls are collapsed. When bladder is empty, fundus is pressed against the bladder neck by intra-abdominal pressure. So while operating near bladder neck, some amount of irrigation fluid in bladder is must to avoid perforation of bladder at fundus. The bladder should be examined as it fills gradually to its full capacity. One should wash the wall of bladder as it fills. As it fills, it should get stretched evenly. During this observation, if any part of bladder appears fixed, inelastic, indurated, non-pliable or rigid, suggest localized inflammation or tumor infiltrations. The whole interior of bladder is examined systematically, for which one can imagine that bladder is like an orange with all segments uniting at bladder neck. The principal landmarks in bladder are air bubble anteriorly and trigone posteriorly. The source of air bubble is irrigation tubing. Air bubbles are trapped in irrigation tubing and hence they enter bladder along with irrigation fluid. Since air bubble is lighter in weight, it rises up to occupy fundus or dome of bladder. The urinary bladder is having two parts, namely trigone and rest of the bladder. Trigone, as the name suggests, it is triangular in shape, having three different openings at three different angles. The openings of two ureteric orifices mark the upper two corners of triangle, while bladder neck forms the third corner of the triangle. The interureteric bar joining openings of two ureteric orifices forms the upper border of trigone. The trigone, which is the most important part of bladder, is flat triangular part of bladder base. It remains flat even when bladder is empty or when the rest of bladder undergoes hypertrophy. So it is always flat. This is because trigonal mucosa is fixed to underlying deeper tissues, hence not mobile like mucosa of rest of bladder. Trigone is more vascular than the rest of the bladder. In general, trigone is different from rest of the bladder as it has got different origin. Embryologically, it arises from mesoderm. The interureteric bar or ridge is one of the important landmark in bladder and it is the cranial limit of trigone. The ureteric orifices are located on either ends of interureteric bar at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock position. Normally, distance between two ureteric orifices is 2.5 to 3 cm. Normal distance of interureteric bar from bladder neck is 2 to 2.5 cm. Cystoscopically, appearance of two ureteric orifices, that is normal ureteric orifice with the right or left, is inverted V-shaped and is placed obliquely. In order to identify ureteric orifice, first identify interureteric bar. For identifying interureteric bar, after entering bladder, advance the telescope from bladder neck straight along the bladder base. The first elevation will be interureteric bar. Same principle of first identifying interureteric bar is used when bladder is grossly trabeculated and there is difficulty in identifying ureteric orifices. Normally, when interureteric bar is identified, then trace this interureteric bar or ridge gently towards its right or left extreme depending upon the side one wants to search. One may have to slightly axially rotate the telescope to right or left. When ureteric orifice is closely observed with almost zero irrigation, normally one can observe clear efflux of urine. After completing the examination of trigone, rest of bladder is examined systematically. After finishing examination of trigone, one can finish examining floor sector. That is, from trigone, one can go straight to examine posterior wall of bladder. Then, right and left lateral walls of the bladder are examined. To examine right lateral wall, one has to move telescope in and out and actually rotate the telescope from 6 o'clock to gradually 11 o'clock. While examining left lateral wall, one has to again move in and out and actually rotate the telescope from 6 o'clock to 1 o'clock. In order to examine anterior wall of bladder, fundus and lateral walls close to fundus, one has to actually rotate the telescope through 180 degree to face 12 o'clock position. Then depress eyepiece and give suprapubic pressure. Then gradually withdraw the telescope till the bladder neck. While withdrawing the telescope, one can examine anterior bladder wall systematically. Along anterior wall, more so along the fundus, one notices air bubble. During bladder examination, one has to examine presence or absence of any growth, stone, ulcer or diverticulum. One has to measure even bladder capacity. Small bladder capacity can be secondary to tuberculosis or interstitial cystitis, which may be responsible for storage voiding symptoms. Also, measurement of bladder capacity is important as there can be accidental intraoperative bladder perforation. Then amount of irrigation fluid going into bladder is much more than the amount of irrigation fluid getting emptied. This is typically described as difficult to evacuate the bladder. This is because part of irrigation fluid is going out of bladder perforation into perivesical spaces. Hence, difficult to evacuate bladder is the first sign of accidental intraoperative bladder perforation. Difficulties while performing cystoscopy. Difficulty in introducing cystoscope due to narrow external urinary meatus, which will require Otis urethrotomy. Then, second problem, penile erection. Never introduce cystoscope in presence of erection as it will damage the urethra. If there is penile erection after spinal, give general anesthesia and deepen the plane of general anesthesia. Third difficulty, tight suspensory ligament of penis. This will angulate the urethra. One may have to do perineal ureterostomy so as to introduce the cystoscope. Next difficulty, poor vision while performing cystoscopy due to poor resolution by optical lens or poor illumination or presence of gross hematuria or presence of grossly hazy turbid urine. Also, difficulties in cystoscopy due to blind areas. Blind area in the bladder can be due to presence of large air bubble, or the blind area can be at the level of bladder neck. In presence of large air bubble on anterior bladder wall, small bladder tumor may get hidden behind this large air bubble. In that case, direct inner end of the sheath towards anterior bladder wall where the air bubble has got collected. Remove the bridge and telescope and then press the anterior abdominal wall towards the sheath so as to expel the air bubbles from the bladder. Now release the pressure on anterior abdominal wall gradually and simultaneously start irrigation slowly and re-examine the anterior bladder wall. In some patients, there may be some difficulty in visualizing that part of anterior bladder wall which is just inside the bladder neck. This is particularly in patient with endovesical prostate enlargement. This is the second blind area in bladder. Tumor lying in this area may be easily missed. To examine this area, angulate the cystoscope more and give suprapubic pressure, or examine this part of bladder when bladder begins to fill. The complications of cystoscopy are urethral perforation, bladder perforation, urinary tract infection, sepsis, septic shock, acute urinary retention, hematuria and clot retention. Thank you very much.